There are tons of guides out there to teach you how to play different characters correctly, but when the time comes to play ranked, only so much information can really help you buckle down and carry your team to victory. I've made these types of videos myself, and while they are great resources to learn characters and their potential, sometimes it's difficult to pull out the practical tips that win you games. So let's cut out the nonsense and learn what you really need to do to climb as Lucio. Mechanics and aim will be important to get down, but in terms of mental things to think about, understanding which song to use when is important. Your healing is very minimal per target, so when in situations when your Reinhardt or other tanks get a little bit too aggressive, speeding them out of danger is better most of the time than trying to heal them through it. That being said, when your team is idle, that is a decent time to just keep your heal amp on, as it is your time to build your beat faster. Common things like amp speeding your team in rotations is also important to cover, as a ton of players simply don't care about their team on Lucio, but we will discuss this more in depth in a later section. This might seem silly, but taxiing your teammates back from spawn after a fight is so important to do, especially if your team is losing a bunch. This gives the team the opportunity to take more fights throughout the game, increasing your chances of winning. Beatdrop is a powerful ultimate that has a lot of uses outside of just countering ultimates. As a matter of fact, sometimes it is better to not use the ultimate in that way. Unlike Transcendence, Beatdrop is a very solid engagement tool when comboed alongside a speed amp. Now, this probably all makes sense to my Lucio players out there, but for this audience, I raise you a question. When is it okay to use an aggressive beat? Here are the things you need to think about. First, does the enemy have an ultimate I could realistically counter with the beat, like Shatter or Graviton Surge with no dragon? Secondly, did the enemy recently use any dangerous ultimates, creating an opening for a free beat engagement win? And lastly, if I do need to beat early, which character needs to die first so that they can't answer once my shields run out from the ultimate? Point 3 is the one I see most players forget. Just beating alone is not enough. Sometimes you are forced to be aggressive with the ultimate, and in these situations, your team needs to know what target to eliminate. Does Zarya still have Grav? She is a high value target. Do Ana and Genji intend on nanoblading? They are high value targets. This is how beat can be used to get more value more consistently. We've reached the part of the guide that makes the biggest difference between a consistent high win rate and a medium average win rate on Lucio. When is it time to put matters into your own hands? It is very rare to see a player that has mastered this playstyle, but it is really important if you want to consistently climb, especially in the end of Overwatch 1. Lucio can be a really bad character to climb on as well if you don't at least try to get better at redditing, which is essentially parting away from your team to try to pick up some picks here and there, but you can't do that all the time. In optimal settings, Lucio is mostly played with brawl-based compositions. This is because he gets the most value when everyone is receiving the benefits of his auras. However, as we have discussed in videos before, ladder is anything but optimal. For example, who is playing Reinhardt in Season 36? You know someone is playing Ball, Hog, and Sigma. Those characters want to take angles and maintain space in very different ways comparatively. So when playing with Ball and Hog, our first job is to make sure your support is safe. But then after that, go on the flank and look for characters to kill. Most notably, characters like Widowmaker and Ana are fantastic examples of solid targets. Alongside Brawl, things get a little bit more in depth. The team is much more dependent on your speed capabilities. At the end of the day, the neutral win condition is to close distance between you and the enemy to beat them down. In a perfect situation, you are barely going to Reddit at all. The team will utilize the speed boost to the best of their ability and the game will be a breeze. But it's just not always like that. After 3 or so fights, if you recognize that your team just isn't getting the value they ought to be, it is reasonable to try and make something happen, especially if the enemy has a crazy good Widowmaker. If you grind enough and are comfortable winning the 1v1, it will help alleviate the pressure off of your team and win you the game. The best way to go about this, though, isn't just to leave your team entirely. Instead, it is important to aid them with amp to the best of your ability and then rotate off of them and onto primary DPS aggressors once they take their off angles. Redditing is a simple idea to understand, but the hard part is having the patience to know when it is 100% the right thing to do. Here are some characters that might help indicate your initial playstyle, but let's wrap up the video with some quick rapid fire tips. Minimize the amount of time you spend on the ground as Lucio. Hovering effectively is a very important skill to learn, as it can help you dodge shatters while also not getting sniped out of the air so long as you aren't too high. Booping the enemy tanks out of position can generate a lot of value for your team, but make sure not to get overzealous. Don't kill yourself for a boop. You are only one Cassidy stun away from disaster. Make sure you are trying to build your beat as fast as possible by dishing out damage and even doing small stuff like healing in between fights and coordinating who heals in the downtime, especially if your other support already has their ultimate. If you need help with mechanics, Vaxta can help, but tryhard FFAs in the custom game tab might be a better option, as it gives you more cover to traverse on. The tools are in your hands to control the outcome of the game as Lucio, but it is up to you to use them. You've already made it to this video, so the passion is clearly there. Just get after it and get on the grind. Thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got a peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.